Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of CCC Talks with Mark O'Loughlin and the Cloud Credential Council. Now, today we're joined by Trevor Sumner, who's CEO of Perch. Now, Trevor, thank you very much for joining us on today's podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Now, Trevor, first off, you describe yourself as a technologist, an adventurer, and a New Yorker. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, I think those are the three pieces that really help define me. My father was a lifelong Bell Labs guy. His team has created Unix, the T1 line, modern pieces of OSS systems. So I grew up in an electrical engineering household. CS major from Princeton. Graduated in '98 when it was the height of the first internet boom, and just kind of went to startups and technology and just really how exciting technology is in terms of the way it's redefining the way we interact with the world and the way we interact with each other, the way we perceive it, the information, the data. It's changed virtually everything over the last 20 years. And being part of that, being part of the evangelism of those technologies has been a really exciting part of my life. And I think that feeds into the adventurer part, which is, I've scuba dived in every continent, including Antarctica. I've scuba dived in the most shark-infested waters in the world. I'm currently planning a trip to do great white shark diving. Those type of adventures is, it all goes hand in hand. It's a lot of adrenaline rushing. And then lastly, I'm a New Yorker, which I think has always played in. I actually I grew up in the house where I Am Legend was filmed, right on Washington Square Park. So
really?
I mean, literally the best porch in New York City with the arch right there. And, I had, first tickets to the gay rights movement and through, the AIDS crisis and to the cleaning up of the park. I grew up where, it wasn't so safe in the park, and now it's probably the most posh place to live. So, I think I would say I've seen a lot. I like things that are fast-paced, high energy, and high impact. And that's what I love about life, because you only got one of them. Might as well live it.
You've only got one. Absolutely, I live by that myself. You have one of them. It's not a dress rehearsal. Go live your life as well. I think that intro, it kind of makes all this IT and technology sound fun as well, and it can be. It doesn't have to be anything other than that as well. So you sound. But one thing I want to ask is, it sounds like you haven't seen the film Jaws.
I have seen Jaws. I actually have a great photo of me with in a swarm of sharks. One of them got a little close to me, and so my wife saw me headbutt a shark as it went by me. So it turns out sharks don't kill people very often. You're much more in danger around bees and deer and other things. At the same time, I wouldn't get on a motorcycle. So,
different things for different folks. What we'll do is we'll try and get a photograph of that you and that shark situation. We'll do something with that, but we'll come back to that another day. Now, Trevor, your company Perch, when we look at it, is transforming the in-store retail experience. And I think you're using some of the latest digital technologies to help achieve that. So listen, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is that 87% of people start their product discovery journeys online. Why? Because that's where the content is, right? We want ratings and reviews and videos and how-tos. We're on our phone, 5 hours a day, addicted to this thing. And, millennials are consuming 18 hours of media. And ironically, the one place to go where there's no media is in store, where you're supposed to be shopping, right? And so why is that? And what we asked is, online I can click on a product to get more information. We should be able to click on products in store, right? So the moment that you touch a product, we know which product you're interested in. It's kind of like clicking on a product. It's giving you permission to say, tell me more. So we create these interactive retail displays, basically touch screens built into the shelving. And the moment I touch a product, it knows what I touched and reacts. It's kind of like, I don't know, have you seen Minority Report?
Yes, oh yes.
Yeah, so as the person's going by, it's like, oh, you're interested in this thing, and let me tell you about it, and It's exactly like that. And what that means is for the first time, instead of, digital signage that says maybe it's Maybelline, like how does that help me, pick out a mascara, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
actually message every single product on the shelf. And the bottom line is we're seeing about 30 to 130% sales lifts. And then we've got access to all this really interesting data, right? So now I can tell you which products convert the best, which media is most effective.
of course, yeah.
I think about old school digital media as like the banner ad of in-store retail, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a flashing something message that's not personalized. It's not about me. It's not contextual. It's not engaging. It's not
yes.
interactive. And banner ads died for a reason, right? Like we got banner blindness, and now we have digital signage blindness. Like we walk in the store and we actively like try and go by because it's noise.
It's
And
noise, isn't it? Yeah.
so we want to be the future of in-store media, really highly relevant, product-based, helpful, interactive, and frankly, it's magical.
Yeah, and you said something there which really struck a chord with me. You said it's using this to say to, for the customer to say, tell me more about the product, not sell me more about the product. It's actually tell me more about it. I can make up my own mind what I want to buy. Don't push it down me, but I'm more likely to make a decision if I'm more informed. And what interested me in this story with Perch is, unlike the online stuff, you have the physical person in a physical store with a physical product now interacting with technology to understand the decisions that they want to make.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the goal is to combine the best of physical and digital shopping, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't help but notice that fancy headphone that you have on with that glowing blue microphone. It's very fancy.
It's
You know, how do you go about picking out something like that, right? Like, let's say you go to a Best Buy and there are 10
yeah,
of them,
yeah,
right? You want to touch it, you want to see it, but then you want to see the reviews and like, what, does it have noise cancellation or doesn't it have noise cancellation? Does that connect to your phone? Is it compatible with an iPhone or an Android? And if you go into a Best Buy, you get a 3x5 card. That's not going to work,
yeah,
right? So all these products and all the best experiences are really combining the best of physical and digital shopping. And to your
yeah,
point, it's informative, but also like what holds me back from making a decision on a product? Like for that, it might be comparisons of products. For a lipstick, it's what does it look like on my face? So we have one where you literally pick up a lipstick
yeah,
and it puts the
yeah,
lipstick on your face.
yeah.
So you can try green and blue and red and all the different shades. Um, uh, for Kate Spade, you pick up a purse and you can personalize it with polka dots and
Of
stripes and
course.
flaps and straps. And, that shows 80 to 180% sales lift because seeing all the combinations and personalizing the purse just for you is really impactful. Um,
Yeah.
Another example is, Johnson and Johnson, right? As soon as I pick up a Band-Aid, I know you've got cuts. Like, hey, you need Neosporin for that too if you want it to heal faster. So it's really thinking through the mentality of the customer and how to inform them, how to engage them, and sometimes even how to entertain them.
Yeah, and with that in mind, do you consider what Perch is doing? Are you a disruptor in the industry or an enabler, or can you look at that from both angles?
I, I think disruptors are by definition enablers of new models,
Of
right?
course, yes. Yeah,
I think this is disruptive. I think the entire retail industry is going through a massive amount of disruption,
I agree.
and it's
Yes.
rapid. I mean, it's rare in history that you see a $4 trillion market really going under so much churn right now, and
Yep.
we often get compared to digital signage, and it's very difficult for me, just because I think you can tell I think not so highly of traditional digital signage. I think it's a
Yeah.
banner ad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing kind of 5 to 10x different types of results. I think of it actually, going back to it like the iPhone, right? I had a phone before the iPhone. It had a web browser, it had apps, it had text, it had calls, it was a flip phone, and it had the same functions, but just this is a radically different device. It's an
Yes.
order of magnitude level of disruption that has opened up the mobile web, mobile apps, all
Yeah.
kinds of data. Um, I see it as that too. We're similar to some things in the past, but fundamentally different and disruptive in the way we enable brands to have visibility into what consumers are doing at the shelf, the way retailers and brands work together, the ability to bridge online to in-store back to online. These are all
Yeah.
new, powerful, disruptive concepts.
I like that. And I think some of the organizations listening to this have to take that approach in industries where they are being disrupted as well, and how to remain relevant. Even the banking industry, we spoke recently with somebody from insurance. All these traditional industries seem to be coming under pressure. And I think unless they take this type of approach as well, they may lose relevancy at some stage. The way retail has kind of lost some relevancy for people. As you said, millennials, pick up the phone, they will order online, or if they go to Best Buy, they want to physically feel it, but then they're checking the reviews online, see a better price. I can wait till, a couple of days to get that in. Or if I
Yep.
have a problem, I'll get it tomorrow. And then the store missing that. So I think that's great thinking, that in this industry, we have to be disruptive but enabling at the same time, and we have to be adapting to what disrupted us in the last iteration to figure out what the new model is. Because I think a lot of this technology is driving us to think about new things and new models. Is that where it's taking us?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think e-commerce has really made people question a lot of things,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
also think a lot of misconception around e-commerce. So, for example, you mentioned millennials wanting to go online. So, do you think millennials prefer to shop in store or online?
Now, it's interesting. I had a conversation last week with well, my view was that I think if retail got a different experience, like what you're talking about, that it would draw people in, but they have to change. And this person I was talking to said, no, I just want to easily, he had a coat, I just bought this online, and that was it. But I said to him, what you're talking about is buying, that coat thing is a commodity that you could get anywhere. There's no differentiation in that. But say it was your sneakers, and you could go in and commoditize. You could not commoditize it. You could change those, as you said, the bag with the straps. You could do different things and interact differently. It would probably make you want to go into the store and have the experience that we used to have of going shopping. Because with that comes meeting friends, going for a coffee, the trip in, the trip out, then the experience of actually designing your sneakers and maybe getting them in the shop, or getting them at the same time if you'd ordered them online. But you've personalized them, and you've been allowed to do that by these intelligent systems.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the fact is, actually, 82% of millennials prefer shopping in store. They want that experience, right? But
Mm.
the reality is,
But
many stores fail to deliver on it. And the other thing to look at is, millennials are twice as likely to spend money on experiences than goods, right? So
yes,
if your
yes,
retail experience isn't just that, an experience, you're going
yes,
to lose out on the goods part of it too. And so you see
yes,
the pop up of like Museum of Ice Cream and Winky Lux and all these guys who have created experiences around their product, and they're wildly successful, right?
yes,
Luggage away,
yeah, yeah,
you know, these are companies that are building experience around their retail and shopper journeys, and they're extraordinarily successful because the brands are also trying to establish more direct ties with
yeah, yeah.
their customers.
Yeah, I see that myself. I was surprised with the percentage you gave us, the 82. But as you said, they want the experience, not so much just the purchase piece, which is now commoditized. And when I go into retail stores, wherever it is, on travels across the world, the ones that I see that haven't changed, that are just the shops with the racks, and that's pretty much it. Everything stacked up. They don't interest me anymore.
Well,
Because
that's right. I mean,
yeah,
the days of just putting products on the shelf are over, because
yes,
Amazon has tens of millions of SKUs on their virtual shelves. So you can't beat them at the game, because like it used to be like, hey, this is the only store that has this selection. Like
yes,
you can't win on selection, you
yes,
can't win on price, you can't
yes.
win on delivery. Where you
Yes.
win on experience, on discovery, on the serendipity of touching products and researching them, of talking to people in different areas. In the luxury market, the sales associate is critical. Um, and the other part about the retail market is basically they call it the barbell, where the luxury market's doing really well and the
Yes.
grocery and discount market's doing well, but that middle market is really struggling, and that also has
Yeah.
to do with demographics in America with the collapsing of our middle class.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we look at some of these digital technologies with cloud, big data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, how are they helping you differentiate in the retail sector?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because retail as a whole kind of has been in the Stone Age in terms of technology. They
Yes.
really haven't invested very much in their
Yeah.
models. They've been kind of watching as Amazon has grown to be this behemoth and disruptive model,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden they realize like this is an existential threat, right? They've been very slow to react. So you still have payment systems with the old green screens and all those type of things, and so the good news is that people are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to re-architect the infrastructure from scratch
Yep.
and start adopting, um, you know, cloud-based data systems and big data, personalization, CRM. They're fighting for customer data that they own. So the e-commerce kind of threat has shown them the value of digital competencies in
Yes.
even in-store retail. And what's interesting is like, I just came back from National Retail Federation, which is the largest trade show in retail in the U.S. And it was all about technology in store, right? Like that's making the stores an asset again, from logistics centers, supply chain, customer interaction, customer engagement, payment systems, cashierless checkout, everything around the technology of the digitization of store. That's the real focus for this year.
Yeah.
Whereas 2017, people were hawking around at clickbait around the retail apocalypse. So
We'll come back to that phrase in a moment. I'm very interested about that. Now, I see that what Perch, you're using a lot of Internet of Things, IoT. Was there an aha moment regarding IoT and how you would use that to get competitive advantage, or was that just a natural progression of your thinking and the changing of business models?
So, I mean, I talk about IoT when I'm talking to technology folk or investors, but when I talk to my customers, we never even mention it. They don't,
Of course.
you try not to explain to them, how the sausage is made and try and confuse them,
Yes.
right? So, the reality is that the cost of equipment have gone down precipitously. The cost of internet
Definitely.
connectivity and bandwidth have gone down. Um, and so for the first time, you can really kind of deploy these really intelligent devices to the edge of the shelf for us, or the edge of whatever your business is, and start
Yeah.
collecting data, and even start forcing some type of interaction. And so most of the IoT that we see out there is like dumb sensors just collecting data. I think what's
Yeah.
interesting about Perch is it's actually a distributed computing network. Each Perch display is a Linux-based marketing node that kind of interacts with clients, measures customer behavior with computer vision,
Yeah.
and also delivers media, reacts to people, measures what they do with the media. So it's much more interesting to me than just some of the I don't want to call it dumber, but less sophisticated, less interactive explosions in the IoT market that are really around
Yeah.
data collection.
And that's why I was interested in your use of IoT, because we've seen a lot of use cases of, as you said, these kind of more dumber sensors. They're pulling in a lot of data that goes into a lake somewhere, whatever that is. People, first of all, they can't even structure it. They don't know what it means. It's all sitting there. It's going into a cloud because storage is cheap, or at least the way there are cheaper ways to store it. But they don't get much out of it. When I looked at some of your stuff at the in-store, it was all about trying to use these sensors to interact with the customer and what they were doing, and then trying to pull in some intelligent data that then feeds and correlates up into more intelligent knowledge for the store about what's happening, as opposed to just individual bits of data that nobody knows what to do. So it seems there's a lot going on in using intelligent sensors in an intelligent way to deliver what Perch delivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what some of the things that differentiates us from the retail analytics market, where if you go to a store next time, look up, there are cameras everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And they're tracking kind of traffic flow and what they call
Yes.
loss prevention, which really
Yes.
means please don't steal things. Um,
Yes.
and so it's great. All right, I've got heat maps, and Trevor walked in, and a 43-year-old male with curly hair who needs a haircut, by the way. Sorry about that. And we touched this product out on on the aisle, and great. What are you going to do with that data?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So for us, we're a closed loop marketing system, just kind of like, almost like a website, right? Where you can use the data to decide how to personalize the journey. You can also decide, how to improve it, to do A/B testing. I'll give you an example. Johnson & Johnson launched a beauty end cap, which is the display at the end of an aisle at Myers supermarkets. And interestingly enough, you put your least performing product on the bottom row because it's the hardest to see, right?
Yep.
And so they had Neutrogena and Aveeno, and then Clean and Clear, which was their least performing product, at the bottom. And they had Kerry Washington for Neutrogena and Jennifer Aniston for Aveeno. And for Clean and Clear, they didn't have a spokesperson, so they just used influencer videos. Yeah. What we saw was that even though the engagement was the lowest on the bottom shelf, because it's at the bottom, the conversion rate from pickup to screen was the highest. And so we said, what's the difference here? And we looked at it and we said, it's the influencer videos. What happens if we replace Kerry Washington and Jennifer Aniston with influencers? And what we've seen is a 20% increase in engagement and an additional 10% sales lift. So that closed looping, not only of the analytics, but the method by which to affect the behavior of the analytics is excellent, right? Yes. And so it's not data for data's sake. We can move the needle. And by the way, traditional digital signage typically shows 1 to 4% sales lift. Or just changing the content has results in an additional 10% sales lift. That shows about, for beauty for Johnson & Johnson shows about 40% sales lift. That's a substantive difference. So I think it's important to differentiate between just sensor and data collection and the things that are actionable in a closed loop type of way.
Yeah, and I think it's a good example of big data, not for the sake of big data or the data scientific stuff that goes behind it. It's taking a step back and saying, how do we architect this from the experience, and then capture information that tells us, is that right? And I think a lot of companies we've come across in case studies are looking at that big data, IoT sensor stuff from the technological side. As you said, you don't talk like that to the customers. It's, we have that understood. I think that's where they're challenged. They spent a lot of money on the big data, the IoT, the cloud, all this kind of stuff, but they forgot about that, what we call customer journey or customer experience or customer interaction piece. And that should be the focus, supported by what the data is telling us, not the data being the focus, trying to drive a sale. I think that's the differentiator. Can I ask, again, not to dwell on the technologies of it, but in using IoT from your company, did you face any challenges with, say, the technology, skills gap, connectivity, availability of IoT solutions and products and software, or has that improved over the years?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's required a lot of deep investment. It's a lot easier to deploy software to the cloud, and God forbid a bug happens, right? Like you just deploy your code and update it, and hopefully, sometimes it's more complex than that, obviously, but with the distributed network of marketing applications, if thousands of nodes with hardware and hardware that changes over the course of several years of operating the business, it's a really interesting challenge. So if there's anybody out there and DevOps and systems reliability engineers, we're actually hiring. It's a really fascinating challenge in terms of how you distribute these applications. But I think also, when I started here even 2.5 years ago, the landscape around IoT has fundamentally changed. Google's investment in IoT Core as part of Google Cloud Platform, or GCP. We've kind of re-architected our platform around that. So we're starting to inherit better tool sets, and certainly in computer vision, we've seen more progress in the last 4 or 5 years than in the 25 years before that.
Absolutely,
so, we're certainly riding a wave of a changing and vastly improving technology foundation. So problems that we just spent a lot of time solving 2 years ago are now automatically solved, which is a little frustrating, right? Because we spent the time to solve the problems, but we also more deeply understand them. And so there's a real value there to being early to market, but not too early that you've invested all the time in IP in a way that you can't change it to leverage new technologies.
Yeah, and that's interesting. What we're seeing is that newish company like yourselves having to re-architect and re-engineer as you go along, it's like you're rebuilding the boat that's you're sailing on as you're sailing on it from start to finish. And I think organizations that have been around a longer period, that have had longer, time to sweat their assets or to use their investments, are struggling with this a little bit and probably losing a bit of ground, that they think we've invested in whatever IT or services or digital that we're going to use, but we don't expect to reinvest for another 7 years. I think those days are going away, that it's continual updating and re-architecting and re-engineering based on the changes in the technologies that we're using, which is happening faster. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had some strategic interest from a digital signage company, and so we were talking about what the integration looks like, and we're like, well, where are you hosted? And they're like, oh, we have our own hosting facility with bare metal, and I was like, really? In 2019? Really?
Yeah,
And it's going to be very difficult for them to migrate over because they're using older
yes,
technologies and they're running some very big deployments. So do they
yeah.
stand up an entirely new network and then have to reinvest in managing two networks? And then like to a certain extent, it becomes very much the innovator's dilemma in that way.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah, I think Innovator's Dilemma. I love the book. I love the concepts that are in there, and I think it's really challenging for some of those organizations. Even in retail, as you said, they've been around for a long time. Some of them around hundreds of years. But now, not only are they having to fight with the ever-changing technologies that are coming up, they're having to reinvent the business model that they operate in, which can be challenging as well. And I think something like this
100%,
fits in.
especially for a public company, right? So, you know,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, so Eric Nordstrom has been very public about Nordstrom, right? I mean, he wants to make some changes, but that would mean, some short-term hits to revenue and profitability. And the investor said no. And it's like, well, we can't continue going down this route. One example is, the big metric in physical brick and mortar retail is, sales per square foot. But if I
Yes.
go in and I go to Bonobos and I go to select, pants or whatever it is, you can't actually buy in store. You finish on the phone or you finish e-commerce and then they ship it to you. So their revenue per square foot is zero, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you want to enable showrooming, like right now, people go in store and complete the purchase online 28% of the time, something you alluded to. Like
Yep.
people aren't capturing those sales. So it turns out that stores are much more productive. It's just you're not capturing the data. And the other part about it is, a lot of the reason that these guys are going out of business is finance, right?
Yeah.
Toys R Us, loaded up on debt to expand their physical footprint, and then all of a sudden they had more debt than they could pay because it was
Yep.
just too fickle. And if you look at all these big guys that we're talking to, one of their biggest problems, whether it's J.C. Penney or Sears, like the real big talk is how are they restructuring their debt? How are they going to make their debt payments? They don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to navigate and make changes, which means they're forced to continue down a strategy they know is not working,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, Macy's, for example, this week just announced that they are going to close a bunch of their less performing stores, open up
Yes.
a bunch of new, smaller format stores, focus on the categories that make sense. And even though they announced closing about a fifth of their store footprint, the stock went up because this is the right move. You have to have that ability to change directions and pivot. And a lot of Toys R Us, a lot of these companies just got put in a debt position to not be able to do that.
I think that was significant. Yeah, we say this a lot in some of these education classes that we do, that you're challenged with the short-term financial position of, say, public companies return value to shareholders, which is where the profit goes, rather than reinvest in innovation and changing. Because if you reinvest that now for a period of time, okay, you don't get the returns out in dividends, but you're probably going to be in business for a long enough time to recoup that later on. So I think it's too short-term thinking with the wrong financial vision or metrics, is where we are today in a lot of companies, which I think will go against them.
Yeah, and look, that's all about capitalization strategy. And what you just said, you could have been talking about me, right? At Perch, right? We're, despite all our successes, we haven't raised a Series A institutional round yet. We just became cash flow positive, so we can control our own
Yeah.
fate. But you know, I'm ready to hire 8 engineers and build my data. Like I have this vision for a data product that I think is really fascinating. And so we're about to raise a Series A. But in the meantime, to your point, my concerns are short-term profitability.
Yeah.
I could literally load up on 10 salespeople right now, bunch
Yeah.
of engineers, and over the course of a 3-year period, that would be a fantastic investment, right? But I've got to wait for the capitalization, the Series A, which we're
Of
raising
course.
this year,
Yeah.
to go do it. And so, it's not just the big companies that have to deal with short-term versus long-term pressures. It's certainly every startup I know.
We tend to forget that as well. Yeah, yeah. Be interested in, a big thing here is you're ultimately trying to drive that customer engagement back into physical stores. And I think a key part of this is, and I thought about this over the years, is if you can get customers back into the store, you have the physical presence, they can physically touch the products, enable them to interact more like online as well in the store, and you're going to get them. But what you're doing, I take it that you do need to use the latest in technologies to make this happen. Using traditional ways of IT or services or that doesn't quite get you there, does it? Is it enabled now because of we've cloud, we've IoT, we've big data, we've all these new techie things that make this easier? Is that helping you in this?
Sure. I mean, I think we're riding a variety of technology trends and computer vision,
Yeah,
IoT, that certainly are really helpful. But this isn't Minority Report. This isn't 20 years away. We are deploying this to thousands of screens
yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
cost effective. It's not crazy expensive. It's not some experiential agency thing. This is all positive ROI driving. So you
yeah.
know uh, we used to say, kind of Perch was the future of retail, but the reality is that the future of retail is now, right?
It's now. Yeah,
Who said the quote that, yeah, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Um, what we're doing now is going to be everywhere, right?
yeah,
Like, there's no question that you deserve to have the media about the products as you shop for them,
yeah,
and that traditional digital signage fails miserably. Kiosks, nobody uses a kiosk. Less than
yeah.
1% of shoppers will engage with the kiosk. Um, I think the CMO of Perry Ellis said it nicely: is that nobody wants to go interact with the kiosk. The nice thing about Perch is it comes to interact with you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, Trevor, you've spoken in the past about, I think, augmented reality. So tell me a little bit about augmented reality and how that's going to change the retail experience for customers. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think most people are familiar with augmented reality in the form of Snapchat filters or Instagram filters or those type of things, where in
Yeah,
real, in real time through your camera on a phone, we use technologies to update what you see. And sometimes that Snapchat filter is actually one of my favorite ones. Is this bus stop I think it was in London, and you think you're sitting in the bus stop and you think it's a glass window right next to you,
yep,
but it's actually a screen that's looking through a camera about what's going through on the other side of that window, if you will.
yes,
So
yes,
it looks like you see the people walking. It looks like a window.
yes, yes, yes,
All of a
yes.
sudden, aliens come and start sucking people up, and like aliens and monsters crawl out of like the subway and grab people. A
Yeah,
tiger comes at you. It's great. It's I forgot what it's called. It's just look at Pepsi. Search on Google for Pepsi augmented reality campaign. It's
yeah,
awesome. So there's Magic Leap that has raised, I don't know how many billions of dollars, and sold a couple hundred devices.
yeah,
um, you know, uh, the cameras that are around the world are getting better and better at interpreting the world and recognizing objects, and
yeah.
that gives us the opportunity to enhance that. And so, Google Glass was very early on this, where you could overlay information on the physical world. And I think the challenge to date is that it often requires you to have your phone out all the time, walking around, um, or you have to have Google Glasses on or something like that. And there shows a lot of really interesting potential, but you kind of need more mass market acceptance to make it
Yeah.
work. And I think Apple has announced that they're going to launch their glasses now in 2023, which
That's
pushed
right. Yeah.
2022. So we'll see. I think that the notion of combining the digital world and the physical world, the possibilities are endless and exciting. And there's so many, like, just think about being, let's say you're in inventory, right? Like inventory management, walking through the warehouse and be like, oh, that parcel should have gone, and this is empty, inventory low warning, and like, imagine all the intelligence of doing your job better, walking through the world, seeing Yelp reviews of the restaurants as you go by, seeing somebody, who you don't remember, but immediately comes up, does facial recognition, you're connected through XYZ on LinkedIn. Oh my God, how much social anxiety would that cure for me, right?
I could do with some of that some days, yes.
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
said
see, so good to see you. How's your wife Jane? Like, how are the kids? How was that
yeah,
Costa Rica vacation? And whatever, right? You
yeah.
you become much more knowledgeable about the world by providing the right message at the right time, overlaid on the physical world.
I think that's good. So I guess question, what's the future for retail look in general? You mentioned earlier about a retail apocalypse. Very fascinated about that phrase and your take on it. So are we expecting a retail apocalypse anytime soon, Trevor?
There's no retail apocalypse. I just hate that word. It's just people use it to clickbait. It's like in New York,
Yeah.
every time even an inch of snow, it's like it's a snow apocalypse. It's like it's weathermen trying to sell you weather reports, right?
Yes, yes.
So, like, I'll give you a couple examples. So, e-commerce is growing faster on a percentage basis than actual brick and mortar, but on a dollar basis, brick and mortar is growing more than e-commerce. For
Yes.
every store, every brand closing stores, there are 5 brands opening stores. 2/3 of retailers who have raised more than $6 million have opened stores, and Amazon, the king of e-commerce, what are
Yes.
they doing for growth? They're
Yes.
opening
Opening
stores.
stores. Yes.
And there's a variety of reasons for this. Facebook, acquisition has gone up, the cost has gone up 300% over the last 5 years. So
Yep.
all the direct to consumer companies are seeing their cost of acquisitions go up because of Facebook, because as you scale, it just gets more expensive. And all of a sudden, you're like, actually, it'd be a lot cheaper to open stores and acquire customers that way. Not only is it less expensive, you build better brand loyalty, the customers are more profitable, they return their items less, it has a bigger brand impact. Stores turn out to be like, it's funny talking to people who are like, huh, stores. Yeah, where 85% of transactions happen. Still, a
Yeah.
$4 or $5 trillion market. There's so much money being spent on stores and in-store infrastructure. It's mind blowing. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, stores are dead. I'm like, okay, all right, I can't talk to you.
I think it might be they may be dead if they don't change or adapt to what's happening. As you said, one store closes, 5 will open, but they're opening with an experience. Some of those examples that you gave, even small stores, they're not stacking stuff on shelves and you just come in and pick off a shelf. They're actually giving you something more. I do
Yeah,
agree. I think yeah, it's not a retail apocalypse if these stores and retail actually thinks that we've got to change our thinking, our model. There's companies like yourself, and there's technologies now to be used to help people do something different in the store. And I think I explained this myself by saying that I believe that um, the retail in general have what Amazon desires, which are stores, because they have that personal touch to the end consumer that can pick up the product, they're in the store, and then they can actually give them more of an experience than they get online buying something of a commoditized item that you said, yeah, if they're not happy with it, they can return it. But if you've had that experience, you might be happier with the purchase overall and perhaps not return it.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think there's a lot of change.
I think the challenge is people are hearing about all these store closures, and it used to be, there are all these big stores with giant, real estate footprints because you used to compete by how much shelves you had on the shelves, right? So
Yes,
you want more
yes,
products on the shelves, you need a bigger space. But
of
now
course.
that's not what it's about at all. And in fact, the bigger the space you have, the harder it is to fill with experiences. So it's
Yes,
like, what is your retail experience per square foot as opposed to revenue per square foot is kind of like this new kind of measure. So we're seeing smaller footprint stores better service, better information, better tracking from online to in-store back to online. And you're going to continue to see a lot more of that. And the reason that there are 5 brands opening stores for every one that's closing is because all of those with a digital mindset, with an experience mindset, are thriving. They're not named Sears and J.C. Penney. They haven't been around for 50 years. They're
Yeah.
not the big anchor tenant at your mall that's closing down. It's Casper that went public and is opening up 200 stores. It's Madison Reed that's opening up 800 stores.
Yeah.
It's Away, Allbirds. It's all these guys that Warby Parker. Everybody, I talk about Warby Parker. Have you heard of Warby Parker?
Nope. But we'll look them up.
No. Okay. So people will say, "Oh, that's the place where I go online to buy glasses." Wrong. They sell more glasses in store when they had just 50 stores,
Right.
and now they have well over 100 stores. They are a brick and mortar, eyeglass retailer that happens to have a very strong e-commerce presence, and also just a great customer experience that links that e-commerce presence and your customer data. They know my prescription. They know the last frames that I've bought. They know everything about me, so they can provide a great experience for me. And
Yes.
so I think we're going to see a ton of change, but it's last year was called retail reinvention. This year, I think it's brick and mortar's return to the throne.
Love it. Brick and mortars return to the throne. I do believe there is a space for them. They just need to change. The metric, tell me that metric you gave us there. Is it retail experience per square foot as opposed to
Yeah,
revenue per square foot? I love it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, what is the type of joy you create? Why do I even come into the store? Like, a woman gets excited about going to Sephora or Mac, right? Because they get, there's an experience. If I have to go get more, Old Spice deodorant, like, this just sounds terrible, right? Like, I wish I could just order, I'll just order it, right? Actually, the reality is, like, I don't use Old Spice, but so I'm not hating on Old Spice. Um, uh, but yeah, how do you create joy? How do you create, like, I want to look forward to going shopping for clothes, electronics, a smart home.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a chore.
Yeah, that's true. Trevor, have you any final words on how digital tech and services are changing how we live our lives?
Well, I mean, that's a really broad question,
It
right?
is, yes. By design, yes.
I'm excited by lots of different technologies. I think we're finally, coming to realize that the power and the dangers of data, um, including social media.
Yeah,
And I think the kind of next phase is really figuring out, like, how do we create technologies that make our lives better, rather than maximize ad revenue. Pardon me,
mm,
maximize ad revenue. Um, and I think there's going to be kind of a reinvention about, how we communicate with each other and what we post and what we share.
yeah,
Um, I'm excited about, Apple Pay and getting rid of my wallet. I don't understand why I have to have a wallet with all these things. I'm excited by, obviously computer vision and really understanding what's going out there in the world and how we can
yeah,
aggregate information in new existing ways. Of course, that also has dangers to it. Just look at the monitoring that they do in China, for example.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
it's we're starting to we're starting to realize our kind of sci-fi futures that I remember when I was growing up in the 80s on Washington Square Park. And
yes.
I think we really have both the opportunity and the responsibility to guide these technologies to make the world an amazing place, a joyful place, an engaging place,
Yeah.
um, and not just a really great advertising market.
I like that you said we have the opportunity but the responsibility. I think that's important to finish on. As you said, we have some fantastic technologies and some fantastic opportunities as well, but we need to make sure that we do that correct. Trevor Sumner, thank you very much for joining us today on CCC Talks. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Thanks for having me on and letting me talk about Perch and about technology. This has been really great, and love the show. And let's do it again.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Trevor.
Take care.
Bye bye.